Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We're going to get started. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen. I hope everyone can hear me. We have an amazing program today with two wonderful guests, Sister Shumail and also Sister Flavia, both experts in the mental health professional, and they're going to be talking about our mental well-being for us and our communities. So please, before we start, go ahead and get your family, get everyone. This will be a very beneficial discussion, inshallah, and I hope all of us will benefit individually and as families and also as a community. So before I begin, just to give you a broader picture of what we're going to be talking about today, so far, it's been over a month, more than a month, and there has been so many different changes that we have had to adjust to as individuals, as parents, as students, as professionals. And it has been overwhelming. It has been overwhelming. We've found ourselves tired at times, overwhelmed at times, worried and anxious at times. But by the grace of Allah, with the help of our faith and the spiritual boost that we're getting from the blessed month of Ramadan that we're experiencing right now, we've come to terms. We're making sense out of things, and some of that chaotic and chaos is now kind of settling, and we are coming to terms and getting better at dealing with everything. But at the same time now, we're looking at our state, and then there is the reopening, the governor's order to reopen and lift some of the restrictions. So now there's, conversation about many having to go back to work. And also now with our children at home, how are we going to adjust to the new norm that's about to come that we're going to face? So to discuss that topic, we have two wonderful guests, and I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to ask them to come forward and introduce themselves. So Sister Shumail, please come and introduce yourself to our audience. And also I want to ask you, how are you as an individual, and how's your family? How are you all adjusting to the new norm? You're on mute, Sister Shumail.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me on this platform. And thank you for asking. Alhamdulillah, we've been well. It has been, as you said, a new norm. Before I go into it, I will introduce myself. I am Shumail Farouk. I'm currently practicing as a mental health therapist in Cumming, Georgia. I've been in the field of mental health and social work for the past 15 years. So before I started my own practice, I was working as in a partial care setting for some time. I've worked as a mobile crisis supervisor for children and adolescents. I have worked with United Nations and World Bank within the area of mental health and social work, and also American Red Cross. So I'm very glad and I'm very thankful to have this opportunity to work with individuals and families and children and adolescents to help them make a change in their life. However, given the current situation, as change is constant, we are now facing such times that for all of us have been challenging, to say the least. But as a family, I think for us, it has been adjusting to a new routine, to a new normal, as you said, and trying to figure out ways, as with everyone else, how to keep the sanity. So it's also been a good change to be able to step back and take a breather. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for that. And I mean, I'm just excited to have you with us today, and to know that there's so much that you've already been doing to contribute. So looking forward to what you have to share with us and the community today. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sister Flavia, you are joining us again. Alhamdulillah, so a pleasure to have you back. And thank you for bringing Sister Shumail on board. And how are you, and how's your family, and how are you adjusting to the new norm?
Thank you for asking me. Assalamu alaikum, and I'm so glad that Sister Shamil was able to join us today. I really enjoy working with you. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. Like everyone else, just I think I've pretty much adjusted to the change. I think that the days sometimes blend together. But other than that, we're doing good. We're just homeschooling the kids, doing the online learning, working from home. So I'm still in a private practice setting, but I'm doing telemental health, and I had to figure out a schedule where I could still see clients. So I doing something that I never did before, which is seeing clients in an evening schedule, so that I have the day with my kids and I can tend to their needs. And then when they're in bed, I see clients at night. So that's what I'm doing right now is telemental health. And alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. I think that this has also been, I have share a similar experience with Sister Shamil, the idea that I was able to slow down a lot of the things that I'm doing. I'm still, active in the community in different capacities. But at the same time, I found that I feel just as fulfilled doing the work in the community and getting the extra benefit of spending more time with my family. So that has been an immense privilege that has come out of such an unfortunate chain of events for many. And I recognize that that's a privilege that I have, that alhamdulillah, my family has been safe and healthy, and that I am able to work from home. That's an immense privilege that I have, and I recognize that. I know that not everyone can be doing that right now, including some of my clients. But what does unite us is that we're all going through this together.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for that. And again, it's a pleasure to have you join us again today. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. So for our audience that's here, please, we are very grateful to have you. While you're here, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. So that way you get updates with any new videos, anything that's coming out. And if you're on Facebook, if you haven't liked the page, go ahead and like. And also, feel free to start watch parties with your family and friends so that more people can really benefit and join us in this conversation and benefit by the grace of Allah. And before I formally start the conversation, I want to again, if I haven't had the privilege to say Ramadan Mubarak and a blessed Ramadan to you and your family, then I want to take this opportunity to say that, and may Allah bless you all this month and your families, and may Allah make any difficulty easy and comfortable for all of us, and may Allah make this month filled with blessings as we face the new norm and also reopening and really getting back to life. Having said that, we have adjusted to a certain extent. Some of the things have become some sort of norm by now, but now the reopening, and we're seeing that our family members and loved ones have to go back to work, and that's going to be the new change that's going to come. So we're going to go back to the norm, and there are a lot of uncertainties with regards to the COVID pandemic that's still very much prevalent. We have seen an uptick in the numbers in the last 24 hours since the governor has decided to reopen. So there's a lot of uncertainties. There's a lot of scare that still exists. So I want to address Sister Flavia to begin with. We see Gwinnett County and other counties that have now released a virtual graduation schedule, and we're also seeing that there's new details coming out with regards to the beginning of the new academic year, which is going to be online, or possibly the idea of the summer break being extended until Labor Day. I mean, these are major changes. These are really major changes that are going to impact our lives as parents and as students, as families. So, what can you advise? What can you say to these our wonderful young brothers and sisters, the students who are graduating under these circumstances? What can you say to our students that are hearing about this, that their summer may be even extended, and there's possibility of going into the new academic year online? What do you have to say?
Yeah, I think that the first thing I can say about this is that, again, we're all in this together. We are, even as therapists, we're trying to figure out how do we go, and how we can best, adapt and not be rigid, in our expectations for ourselves and also for others, and remain flexible as all these changes continue, right? So, we're really in a unique experience, and even though we're maybe experiencing it in a different way, we're all in this, sort of collectively. And the uncertainties that students might be feeling right now, whether they're transitioning from elementary to middle or middle to high school, those are big transitions that normally they can bring a wide range of emotions, right? From excitement to anxiousness or worry about those changes. And then we've just added an extra layer of complexity now, right? With the uncertainty around how do we adapt to starting a brand new school, right? At the next, when the next school year comes for our 5th graders and our 8th graders and our and those that are graduating, our seniors. I think that it can be incredibly painful, and even bring a rush of confusion or anger, or even disappointment, that some of our graduating seniors wouldn't get to experience that the normal sense of accomplishment, that they've graduated now and they're off to, university, or off to start their new jobs. And then this has sort of put a big pause on all of that. And it may have them feel what a lot of young people call it, that the skill of the fear of missing out, right? The fear of missing out on those experiences. And what I can say about growing up is that part of growing up means learning how to still function even when we're uncertain of what to do, right? The skills and the tools that you're learning now will come in handy in whatever challenges lay ahead in life. So I think that as our seniors especially experience that sense of loss, that or any feeling that they may be going through right now, from not getting to have their graduations be in person, and maybe have graduation parties, or whatever celebrations they were planning on doing. Maybe they had a trip planned out, and they had all these ideas for how to celebrate that great achievement. I think that all the feelings that you may be feeling right now are normal, are valid. And I think that if you were able to share, to our youth, especially if they're able to share that, whatever they're going through, with somebody else, and not just internalize it, it's almost guaranteed that they're going to find somebody in their family or in their circle of friends that is experiencing a similar feeling, right? So it's important to remain connected to one another during these times. And as we start to reintegrate back, as the state opens up, and we're all trying to figure out how to do that safely in the ways that make sense for our families, I think that it's important to sort of separate the things that are out of our control and the things that are still within our control, right? And some of what still remains within our control is getting into an established routine, right? Staying connected with your friends. There are many creative ways that people are finding to still stay connected. Virtually, drive-by graduations, I've seen that online, and the virtual graduation parties. So there's lots of ways that you can still feel like you've accomplished something great. In fact, in some ways, I think that it's amazing. In some ways, an even greater accomplishment that in the middle of a global pandemic, you were able to still finish your studies and graduate from high school. I mean, that's going to be an experience that you would be able to share with not only your cohort, but with your own children in the future, because what we're going through right now is really building this sense of resiliency in us, right, to be able to confront other things in life. So I think that as we go through this, I think it's important to just remember that these skills are going to be able to come in handy in the future, that adapting to change is part of the natural development, and and to remember what are those things that I can still have control of, because again, it's very common to feel a sense of powerlessness in this type of situation, but there's still things that we can take hold of. We can still decide to spend time with our families. We can still decide to take care of our mind, body, and spirit, especially in the month of Ramadan, right? We can still decide to remain connected and take advantage of the resources that are out there. I think one of the maybe the high points of this is that there's tons of organizations right now, from the schools to other nonprofits, that are doing virtual classes, opportunities to meet new people online, to attend, workshops such as this one. And I think that it's important to sort of keep in a routine and still feel like you're edifying yourself during this time. So, and they exist from all ages, from the little ones. They have online classes for the little ones, not outside of school, but like play dates online for the little ones, all the way up to our high school graduates and our college students. So there's something out there for everybody. It's forced us to be creative about how we stay in touch. But I do have a question for Sister Shumail, because I think that, the students are trying to figure out how they can adapt to this new normal, right? But how can parents, or what do parents need to do or to support their children as they adjust to this new normal? What are the signs that they need to be looking out for, to let them know if their children are struggling with, adjusting?
And that is very important, Sister Flavia, because with all these changes happening, it is, as you say, it's a new normal for everybody. And how it impacts everyone is also different, because how we respond to stress is different individually. So it's good that you ask how the parents can help the children, but I always say, before helping your family, try to take care of yourself, because it's easy to miss out on cues when you are stressed yourself. So take care of yourself first at an individual level, and of course then at a family level. So when I say what parents could do, I would first be a role model yourself. Take breaks, get your sleep, get your exercise, be more physically active, eat healthier, connect with your friends and family members, be aware. What's more important is also be aware of your own thinking. Because what we tend to do is pass on what we are thinking to our kids without even realizing it. So we use the term catastrophic thinking. So when it's negative thinking, we keep on thinking negative, right? It's a cycle, one thing after another. So catch yourself when you're in that pattern. Change it to a more solution-focused thinking. So when you're anxious, step away and think, okay, let me change my perspective to this and address it differently. Most importantly, it is normal to be anxious, because some of us are having some financial constraints, some of us are having health concerns, etc. It's normal. However, do not talk about your anxious concerns in your kids' earshot. How kids take what you're thinking or your anxiety would be multiplied at a magnitude that you would not even imagine. Kids like building stories. So if I'm at a count of 10, my child will be at a count of 80 building her own story, just to give you an example. So that's what we got to do. However, to help, what we can watch out for our children, as you said, with all these changes happening, not only with graduation, with online school, online learning, even their extracurriculars now are online. So it's a lot more staying inside. All of a sudden, the families, the dynamics have shifted. So what we can watch out for younger kids especially is if they're throwing a lot more tantrums, if there is excessive irritation or excessive crying. Also, there could be a regression in behaviors, which would be toileting independently eating if they were doing that before they've stopped, or independent play, or independent sleeping. If they're sleeping in their room, they're coming. So they're more attention seeking. If you see a lot of more sadness, a lot more quieter, your child's a lot more quieter, not smiling as much, or their unhealthy eating habits or unhealthy sleeping habits, not sleeping enough, not eating enough. In teens, especially, you might notice that they're acting out, or there is irritability, or there is poor school performance. They do not want to do their work online. They're not submitting their assignments, or they're just avoiding it. It's not the same. I'm not seeing my friends. They're not having that incentive to do that. These would be helpful signs to keep a lookout for. Difficulty in concentrating or being more attentive. You'll see them walking around a lot. You'll see them, like not having anything to do, but unable to focus on one thing, unable to finish a task. Avoidance of activities that they enjoyed in the past. If your child liked in a regular routine going out and playing in soccer just in the backyard, it's just like, I don't feel like doing it. For everything you hear, I don't feel like doing it. Okay, maybe time for you to have that talk with that child. Also, another symptom mostly is one of the changes could be physical complaints of headaches or body pains or stomach ache. So you might hear a lot more of that. And the ways that parents can actually support their children as a family would be talk to them. Talk to your child or teen about COVID and answer their questions, which is age appropriate. Age appropriate is important because you want to give them only what they can swallow. So you want to explain it in their terms, which they can understand. So if you were explaining to a teen, you can explain it in a way, keep it simple, tell them, yes, it is. I'm not saying, tell them, oh my God, everything is perfect. No, give them the dose of reality. However, keep it simple. They do not need to have the fear factor about it or anxiety with it. Reassure them that they're safe, and then check in with them periodically. Tell them, yes, this is there. However, if we are taking these precautions, we are following the CDC guidelines, we are doing this is the way to do it. So keeping the reality check, keeping it very simple, keep them in the loop. However, keep it simple. And also check in with them. Tell them, hey, hey, how are you feeling? Do not make it a very confrontational talk. Hey, I think I'm noticing all this and I just want to talk about it. However, keeping a tab on your child's pulse, emotion pulse is important. Also limit your time as a family to the exposure to news coverage of, all this social media and everything. Sometimes some things are not as true and there's misinformation that goes around and children may misinterpret it. So what they hear can frighten them about something. And when they do not understand it, they'll make their own story out of it, which might not even be true. So limit your exposure. Try to keep up with regular routines. So even if the schools are closed, I know there is online learning, create a schedule for younger kids. It's easier. For school-going kids, it's easier because you can have, okay, in the morning you're doing this. Come up with a regular schedule around the same routine with the same time frames. Create a schedule for learning activity, relaxing, or for fun activities. Be more creative. This is our ideal time to be able to come out of think out of the box. Think of things that you enjoy doing with your children. Think of things that you did not get a chance to do before and you would love for them to do or to spend time. So do things, go for a walk, go for a hike, play a board game. Do things, be creative, like come up with activities, ask them to come up with activities or do exercises together, be more physically active. Another important thing that I would really like to say is also try to make plans with them, because what that gives us is a sense of control. Not everything we can control, but what you can, try to give it to them. So you can come up with plans like, hey, this week, if you do not, I understand most of the parents are working, you can't really come up with a plan for every day. However, in this week, let's have a virtual date. with, why don't you set up a virtual play date with one of your friends? Or this week we're gonna go for a nature walk, or we're gonna go for hiking, or we're gonna cook something together. Look up for a recipe, whatever they like to eat, or they're interested in. Come up with a recipe, bake something together. So come up with plans like that that you could do with them. It's Ramadan, so involve them, accept help, ask for help, involve your kids with the chores that you are doing. Ease the stress on you too. So give them child appropriate jobs, and also their age appropriate jobs. So it would be like setting the table. Teens can help the younger children with their schoolwork or whatever they need help with. Kids could do the dishes, like putting them in the dishwasher, take the trash out, stuff like that. So you can involve them in these chores around the house. Connect with loved ones, connect with family. Think of 90s. Think of the times when we actually used to send letters. Think of the time when we used to mail cards. Use that time again. Let it be. Let these kids have a taste of it. Enjoy it and make it a positive activity instead of negative. So trying to make it more positive, do phone calls, be in touch with video calls, use social media in terms of connecting with ways with families. People are doing these hangouts with the whole families doing all in different continents, are able to get together through the social media. So take advantage of it. Be creative, be flexible. One thing I would like to say is every crisis has an opportunity. So take this as an opportunity to do things with your family and be easy on yourself, because yes, it's great to have routines. It's great to do everything. You're not perfecting anything as a family. You're not trying to come up being the perfect family who knows everything, who's got to handle everything, and be the perfect parent. Be flexible. If you do have a routine and if they are watching TV a little longer than usual, that's okay. The goal here is to stay safe and to stay sane. So do not overthink it in terms of making it harder on yourself or on your children. So be a little more flexible. Let them have more time on Fortnite, or let them watch TV for a little, as long as they're. So basically just have a routine and come up as a family together to deal with this, and inshallah. Yeah.
Sister Shima, sorry, Sister Shima. I was just, as I know that a lot of our viewers right now are actually going back to work. And I think that a lot of the things that you mentioned are so important, right? Especially that keeping the routine and getting that sense of talking about your things, because it creates that general sense of safety, of your own sort of competence, if you will, as a parent, and ability to function in a time of crisis. And of course, that's modeling that behavior for the child. What do we say to the parents who need help because they are, say, have been for the last almost 2 months now actually exposing themselves every day? They can't work from home, so they are working outside, and maybe their children are having the fears around having their parents be outside of the home. How can parents continue to offer that reassurance to their child that they are staying safe, and yes, that they are taking risks, but at the same time give them that sense of like encouragement and not worry them, that they are having to work outside the home? What would you say? What could we do to help those parents?
So the parents who actually, so there's different. There is essential workers who actually do have to go out and work, and there are other than that, there are parents who do not have an opportunity to stay at home. However, I always say keep it honest. Let them know. It's not about not telling your child what's happening or not telling them what's out there. So be honest about it. Tell them, yes, we do have this. There is this virus going on. There is a pandemic. So give them a lowdown. Involve them. However, do not give them details of it. So if there is fear of, hey, we're going out, etc. So let them follow the precautions. Let the kids know these are the precautions. I'm taking these precautions, and this is it. And hopefully everything would be okay. However, there is a risk if we do not follow this. So trying to keep it, and I would keep on emphasizing on the fact that as long as you are following what you need to, and as long as you are doing the best that you can to keep yourself and your family safe, I think that would be the most amazing, that's the most important thing that you could do in order to help them understand better. And other than that, and trying to address the fear. Don't be afraid of fear. If there is a fear, talk about the fear. So if there is a fear, say, yes, there is that chance. So as honest as you can be, however, keeping it simple. I hope that answers it.
No, that's a great response. It actually goes into another question that we just got here that says that, we've mentioned how so many emotional changes, all these emotional changes that, we need to be looking out for, right, in the kids, like them not liking the things that they used to like. And, then, it's time to have that talk. So the question is, can we have a little guidance on how to talk to your children who are feeling demotivated to that extent and feel sad? And I think that as you were saying that, it made me think of, my own growth as a parent in being able to manage my own emotions, adult emotions, not transmit that to a child, right? Not transmit adult emotions to children, and so that they understand that they don't have to take on adult emotions, because some of that may be coming from that transmission of an adult emotion onto a child, that they can just it grows exponentially to them, right? Because they have different minds, brains, and capacities. But I think that one thing I think of is, how do I create that sense of safety around emotion, is continuously having those talks, right? Even with my own children, letting them know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to get angry. Do we need to punch a pillow together? Let's rip some paper together, with the little ones. There are lots of things that we can teach them by modeling that behavior, right? Of how to manage that emotion. I don't know if you have something to add there.
Yes, absolutely. It is important. It is important to talk to them. If you are noticing these things in your child, somewhere down the line, they've picked something. Okay, and it's important to address it. Do not let it slide, because the more time you could take, if there weren't any pre-existing conditions, they might lead to something bigger. So try to catch them early. It's important to see these warning signs. It's important to talk to them. Absolutely. Tell them, hey, what's going on? I always say the best way to address any mental health challenge is to be direct, to let them and be more open. And if they're not open with you, try to seek help. It's okay to ask for help. There are a lot of professionals these days, and thanks to telemental health, we are all providing all these services, as you're aware. It's okay. We are not, as parents, you're not supposed to know everything. You're not supposed to handle every crisis. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to ask for help. There are a lot of professionals. If your child's not comfortable talking to you, then you can always reach out and talk to a professional. However, at your level, initially, it's important to touch on those emotions. It's important to bring out, it's important to address them and try to be more involving in it. That's a great point. And, being able to tune into your own anxiety is important, because once we are anxious, what we are saying, I might be talking to my spouse about something and my daughter would hear it and she'll come around 2 days later and throw something at me like, oh, so-and-so died, because so the fear could have been a lot more for those 2 days than I actually addressed it. So it's important to address those concerns. However, it's also best not to pass on that anxiety to the kids.
That's a very good point. We have another question here related to how sometimes the college students, especially, right, that we're looking forward to going out and have jobs or start their internships, and now they feel stuck. Their internship or job opportunities were put at a halt. And that can be especially discouraging when you were so excited to sort of launch into, adulthood, right? I think I think we're going to get to that a little bit later about how you can still find ways to stay motivated during a time of crisis. We'll dedicate some time to that a little bit later in our conversation. But for those that do feel stuck, and if it does feel like it's a sense of that's overwhelming, definitely that would be a time to talk to a therapist, right? About how you're adjusting to that change. This is not the first time that we've gone through something like this. During our last economic recession, kids were left without a job. They graduated school and there were no jobs, right? But all of this is temporary. That's what we do know. It's not going to last forever, right? So whatever time that we do have that's spared, let us try to find ways to still stay, maybe take that time of respite to stay connected with our friends, with our loved ones, to do other areas of personal growth and development. Because once real adulthood starts, once you really get into that rat race, there's very few opportunities, right? To really engage with yourself and get in tune with yourself and stay, connected to your family. So and it's not to belittle the feeling that going, that, man, I can't even start my internship. I was so looking forward to getting it. I worked so hard to get it and now I can't start it. Those opportunities will be there, and we should have faith that if they're not, that those opportunities are not there when this is over, other opportunities will come. But right now, as we think about our needs is first and foremost to stay safe, to take the necessary precautions, right? And I don't know if you have something to add about that, about that frustration that can happen with those that were hoping to launch into adulthood and then find themselves halted by this pandemic.
This too shall pass. Best phrase that goes in my therapy. It goes in, it's an important phrase because, and it also, having our spiritual and having faith, mashallah, also has been, it's been great. It adds to all this mental health piece. I was actually talking to someone the other day. I was like, it's beautiful, alhamdulillah, how mental health has been integrated within our religion. How we are so blessed, because a lot of these therapeutic techniques that I teach are a part of our religion. So it's interesting to me. And as you said, this too shall pass, and it's okay. If not today, there will be other opportunities tomorrow. Whatever's best for you will come your way, and use this time to do what's best, at what best you could do for yourself.
That's right. I think we do fall into this, I don't know if it's a mistake or what, but we put a lot of expectations on ourselves, right? I'm 21, so that's it. I have to have this job, and then by 23, I'm going to get my master's, and then I'll even have my before I'm 30, I'll have my PhD, and I'm going to earn, what do they call it? 100,000 plus salary, by such and such time, and we give ourselves these benchmarks, and that nobody assigned to us, right? But ourselves. And when we have so much time, and it does seem like, in our youth, we do sort of rush through the steps, right? Because you want to feel that sense of accomplishment and feeling successful. And that is it's great to have ambition, right? But it can go both ways. It's a double-edged sword, right? When you've set your goals so high, standards that are put on you maybe by society that that may not understand your individual needs, right? So it's important to sort of not lower your expectations, but adapt as changes come, because plenty of wrenches sort of get thrown into life as we have all these plans, and then we get thrown a wrench, and then subhanAllah, we don't despair, we adapt and we change. And this is just another example and of being able to do that now in your youth, and having that skill of being flexible, of being less rigid. it actually produces less anxiety in you when you're less rigid about your own, expectations, right? And then, and sort of go with the flow, as you say, this too shall pass, and taking that attitude with you really allows for things to flow more easily. And then you find, oh my God, all the mental anguish that I had about this, I could have spared myself a lot of that anguish by, sort of taking it as it goes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. As you were talking about mental, anguish and all this emotional piece of it, I'm thinking of the population as now, Georgia is opening up, and we have the shelter in place has been lifted for most of the state, with some certain health, with certain categories left out. However, so there is an if we address the vulnerable populations right now, one of those most of us by now do know, as the infection rate has been increasing over time, and just overnight, yesterday was it, within 24 hours has been the highest rate of individuals who've contracted the virus. So by now we all know someone who's either had a virus or who's is coming out of the quarantine. So that, I feel, has been a very vulnerable population. So talking about their emotions, I think, would be helpful. So how do you think they would, one thing I would love for you to talk about would be how they would handle the challenge, the emotional challenges, and what they would be feeling, and what's the best way to address it?
Yes. Oh, wow. That's such an important question, because I think that it's important to give a voice to these two folks that have already been experiencing, are currently sick, right? Because and to prepare ourselves for what, if we do end up contracting the virus. There's lots of emotions that can come, but all of them are within what's normal, right? It's normal to feel a sense of shame, a sense of guilt, sadness, loneliness. There's fears around infecting your family, or guilt if you do, feeling dirty, feeling shut out or isolated. It's I imagine that there's many people right now, including some people that I know, that have said those questions. But I did everything right. Where did I go wrong? I thought I followed all the precautions, but I still got sick. Am I going to live? What's going to happen to my family? These are all like normal questions that we would ask ourselves in that situation. And it can be very disturbing to have to spend, a time that you're sick, have to spend it in isolation, because a virus is so contagious that it can, spread to your loved ones. And how, gnarly that can be to be experiencing that in your home and not be able to have contact with the people in your home during the period of quarantine, of self-quarantine. But I think it's important to get your thoughts right, back on the right track, as you were saying. When you find yourself going into that pattern of negative thinking and negative thoughts, turning back towards your faith, and away from despair during those moments. Staying busy by reading, by writing, by socializing, over video or phone, maintaining that sense of positivity, finding things to laugh at, just good humor and exercise have shown to sort of improve your overall sense of wellness. But also specifically with this virus, it's still important to maintain activity while you are experiencing COVID. So I think that those are some of the things that I would say around how you can still maintain some sense of positivity and combat the loneliness that can come from isolation while you are going through the virus. And I think that just as important as it is to talk about those that are or have gotten sick or are currently sick, I think it's important to talk about the other vulnerable populations, right? Like the elderly, who we know this virus first started, they said, take care of your elderly because they were most at risk. And how do we take care of our elderly, right? How do we still support them during this time as we worry, right? It's normal to worry or have fears around making sure that they stay safe. But what could be going through this vulnerable population's mind, right? What could be going through both the frontline workers, right, the people that are going out there every single day and exposing themselves to the virus potentially, and to those that are most vulnerable, like the elderly or those that are immunocompromised. So I would love if you could maybe talk a little bit about some of that mental and emotional toll that these two groups could be experiencing at this time.
So frontline workers, at this point, we use the term heroes, right? We say frontline workers are the heroes. And somehow when we use the term hero, we expect above and beyond from them. So, however, I would like to say they also have feelings. Heroes have feelings and they have families too. So all the doctors, the nurses, the social workers, hospital staff, nursing home staff, grocery workers, and so many more, they are actually seeing death in front and around, and it's not easy. So it's important to acknowledge, it's important to understand that it's okay to have that emotional distress. So I'm glad you brought up both these populations, because I really feel they're both having their own chunk of stuff, emotional stuff that they are probably going through. And it's really important to acknowledge secondary traumatic stress. Secondary traumatic stress is when you see someone who's going through it and then you're taking it. So basically you're always around someone who's going through the trauma of loss, the trauma of losing a loved one, trauma of not being able to make it to a janazah these days, the trauma of not being able to sit by your loved one or provide the support. So there is so much more, or not being able to help someone that you have developed a bond over 20 days of the care bond, and they in the end lost the battle. So to acknowledge that is important, and to know that it's okay to have feelings. And again, asking for and accepting help is a sign of strength. Nowhere does it say you're weak. Nowhere does it say you're weak if you're asking for help or you're reaching out. It actually is a sign of strength that you're able to dig in deep and say, hey, this is affecting me. And it's okay to ask for help at that time, or reach for mental health counseling, or in your area, or telemental health, however you would prefer it. So keep a check on both symptoms. Your physical, if you're having feelings of being burned down, things that you were very active and now all of a sudden you're like, I don't feel like going to the hospital today. I really don't want to get out of the bed today. Fatigue, illness, a lot more somatic complaints. Similarly, mentally, it could be you could have more nightmares, feeling more anxious, having OCD, doing something over and over again, fear of transferring the virus to your own family, the guilt of not being able to save a patient, or not being able to be there for someone in time. So these are the things that it's important to keep a tab on. However, at the same time, as we've been saying, the self-care activities are important. Take some time out for yourself. If you are on a go, if you are in the front line, please take some time. Take some time to exercise, read your favorite book, take some time to enjoy a walk. We've had a beautiful spring in Georgia. Go enjoy the flowers outside. Whatever works for you, enjoy your nature, enjoy your walks, and take a break from the media coverage. The social media about COVID can be extremely, it can raise a lot of anxiety. So that's important. Again, I cannot emphasize enough on please ask for help. Please ask for help if that's the case. Now, addressing the elderly population, it's one thing we've heard a lot about COVID and all during this time is that elderly people, or people who are immunocompromised, are more at risk. It's easier said. However, if you think about the people who actually fall in those two categories, it's a lot of emotional stuff that they're going through, because what we are trying to say is, hey, if you already have it, there's a high chance. And what we are doing also is telling them, stay at home, don't go out, because you're going to get it. We're forcing them. We are telling them, hey, you know what? You might just get it. So because you have these conditions, or you might have to, so do not do things that you were doing at your age. So it's added distress. They might be having feelings of depression. They might be having feelings of isolation, especially if they're living alone or we're in a nursing home and their loved ones cannot visit. They might have feelings of guilt where families have to drop in groceries, or the families have to take care of some of their chores. They might have added distress because of language barriers. They might be living in lower income households, or any pre-existing mental health condition that puts them at a higher risk. So again, things would be physical complaints. You might just hear more of stomach aches, headaches, cognitive problems is another thing in the elderly population. There would be trouble in concentration. There would be more, they might be a lot more forgetful. You might feel it's more like attention. It's more attention seeking, but not like a purposely attention seeking. However, there are things that they were used to doing. It's kind of slipping away because they're actually thinking we're already there, you know? So it's a difficult life. It's a difficult part of life for them. And you
don't
know,
want to lose your sense of autonomy or feel useless.
And
right?
we're forcing them in a way. Hey, stay back. The whole state is open. These categories, you got to stay back because you know what? You're going to get it. So there's also the stigma, this perceived likelihood of spreading COVID because of your age or disability that they're carrying with them. And it could represent in terms of being more quiet, being more sad. So it's easy to miss that if you are noticing because of their age. However, that could be because that sadness is taken over. So it's important to normalize that concern. It's normalize that worry, to normalize those feelings of guilt, the fear, etc. It's okay. Again, what you could do is connect with your loved ones, connect with this population. There are so many virtual ways to do that: FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, so many ways that we could do it. You can monitor the medication supplies, the grocery supplies, so they do not feel as if they're burdening you. However, try to be a step ahead for them and being more aware of changes in their moods, being more aware of, keeping a check more regular. If you were talking to them once a week, make it maybe 4 times a week. So trying to stay more in touch. There are drive-throughs happening outside nursing homes. People are sending letters. Again, there are different ways to do it. Be more creative, be more in touch, but it's also important to be aware of what these people might be going through. And as we are talking about these, I know one of the things that came up was, and I would love to touch upon, and I would love for you to talk about it before we end our talk today, would be, how do people stay motivated? It's a big change, right? It's a big change staying at home. It's a big change. We are working from home. It's a big change. There's online school. How do we still stay motivated? How do we find that motivation to continue doing what we need to during these times?
Okay, so I would answer this in one of 2 ways. It's like a sort of 2 sides to every coin. On the one hand, you may have people that are the overachieving type, right? Where they feel like, oh my gosh, I have to, come up with the next great invention during these times, or, I'm losing my opportunity to make money, or I wanted to take on that second job, and I think that it's important to sort of remember that surviving a pandemic and making sure that you're safe first and foremost is enough, right? So, trust me, the rat race is still going to be there for anybody who wants it when all of this is over, right? So, as far as those that are that overachieving type, it's important, as you mentioned, identify burnout, identify when you feel like you have had maybe more weight gain or excessive weight loss, irritability, being jittery, right, or having fatigue. Those things that can be signs of burnout, watch out for them and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Like they say, check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? So for the overachiever, I think it's important to have practice self-care. But then comes the other side, right? What happens when those that feel like they just lack the motivation right now? They're beating themselves up because they feel like they're not as productive as their friends that started a home garden, or their friend that took up, like, I don't know, some new hobby, or is learning Mandarin or something over the pandemic. you know, as the time goes on, I do see more and more people posting about things that are coming up for them as new hobbies that they didn't know that they were going to be getting into. And everyone has their own pace in finding that. But I think that one thing that could help with that is keeping a journal, right? Because as you keep a journal, it may reveal to you things that you keep writing about, things that you're most passionate about, right? Even map out an area, map out different areas of your life on a sheet of paper. Write down school, friends, family, so religion, hobbies, and write it down, and then say, which areas of my life are actually bringing me joy right now, which areas are fulfilling me, which areas are draining me. And then maybe that'll give you that mental picture of saying, actually, these are areas of my life that I want to develop. What are 2 or 3 things that I could start to change? Or even one thing, as you said, solution oriented, solution focused. What is one thing that I can develop in this area of my life that I see that it's lacking, right? And then, just concentrate on that one task that you can make. And slowly you're making those incremental changes. Before you know it, when you look back and reflect on the month, you will find, wait, I've actually accomplished quite a bit here. But it's important in both sense, whether you're an overachiever or you're someone who's trying to find the motivation, to not beat yourself up and to, not be so hard on yourself during this time. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember we are going through a global pandemic, one that we've never experienced before. So, keeping our standards sort of being flexible and lowering our expectations can improve our overall wellness.
Just adding a quick comment to that. As you were saying it, it's a great time to take a break from that Instagram, to take a break from showing your videos and setting those standards of perfection of being on vacations, posting all these pictures, all that trauma that added to it. It's a great time to self-reflect. So use this time to break away from all those expectations, the false lifestyles we were trying to set up to impress people. This is a time to enjoy with yourself, your families, your loved ones, people that matter who are right there, right next to you. So just adding to that, as you were saying, I was just thinking, and that's where find your motivation there, tap into those areas to find that.
And what a great time to do it during the month of Ramadan, right? The month of reflection. So yeah, alhamdulillah. So Sister Shamil, I think that we're just about done here. I don't know, maybe I think Imam Abdullah. Oh, there you are. Okay.
There he is.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. I mean, I'm just writing notes, and I think there is so much practical advice, for us as individuals, for our families, and for us as community. And I think the takeaway is this too shall pass for all of us. So, Sister Shumel, thank you for reminding us. And that is, echoing the sentiments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in the Quran. Actually, in one of the most difficult stages in the life of the Prophet, beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him and his family and all the other prophets, was in a stage in his life in Mecca where he was really overwhelmed with the condition, the oppression, and the overall state of humanity and the world around him. And Allah reminded him in that silo where he was, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى, that the end will be better than what you are facing right now. What's to come will be better than what you're going through right now. So the idea of keeping faith, the idea of knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Lord, our creator, sustainer, is in control. There's some things that may be uncertain to us, but there's no uncertainty with regards to him being in control. They say that if God got you into it, he's going to get you through it. So keep that in mind, that we're not alone. We're people of faith, and we are extremely resilient as individuals, and you are not alone. The CARE family is here. We continue to be active socially, politically, in advocating and defending the civil rights of our community in these trying times, in these difficult times. And along with our professionals, such as Sister Flavia, who are involved in the mental healthcare field, they're here to help you, me, our families. So again, don't feel shy, don't feel afraid of reaching out. If you want to reach out to them, you can definitely reach out to us and let us know. We'll put you in contact with them and many other professionals that are in the field will be able to help you, inshallah, by the grace of Allah. So again, we are extremely grateful for you joining us. Please make dua for our wonderful sisters, Sister Flavia and Sister Shumel, for joining us. I'm extremely grateful to you both. May Allah bless you both and your families with the best of this world and the next. And I look forward to having you both and other professionals to join us, inshallah. And to our community, again, thank you so much for joining us. If you're here, don't forget to like us on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, and also use the chat to let us know what else you'd like to see, what we can present, inshallah, to help you and to help the community. So again, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much for joining us today. Inshallah, we look forward to seeing you next weekend, inshallah, with more exciting programs. Keep us in your dua, stay blessed, keep faith, and this too shall pass. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.